Hi, I'm just here doing the check over on your Can Am Outlander. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the items on the service list that need attention, and then the other items on the list you can just hopefully assume they're okay, or unless I make some kind of note that they're not. So anyway, let's go through the list and I'll show you what's what. So up here on top, first thing, I have this laid out for you. You definitely need a new air filter. So not only is it dirty, it's a bit wet. And if we go into the air box, and I'm kind of reaching here a little bit, so you're not going to be able to see everything, but you get a lot of debris in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to suck that out, and I'm going to throw away that air filter, and we're going to put a new one in there for you. Your radiator coolant was low in the bottle, and that's up here underneath your pod display, so you can just see the bottle there, I hope. I filled it up to the max mark, and I also checked the fins on your radiator, because sometimes I find that when I see bottles down on fluid, that sometimes that tells me the bike's been running a bit hot and maybe blowing some coolant out or something like that. And I do notice that there's a bit of debris in your radiator. You can't really get the camera to the focus to the grills. It doesn't like them. Anyway, what I would do is I would spray some kind of biodegradable cleaner on the radiator fins, something that's safe, and let it soak for a little bit, and then just do a nice easy spray and clean those fins out as best you can, just so that that radiator can breathe a little bit better and keep your bike running nice and cool the way it's supposed to. Your battery is low on charge. It's down to about 30%. It's also low on cold cranking amp, so it's rated at 270, and it's only giving me about 238 at the moment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that on a charger. I'm going to charge it up while I'm doing work to it, and after I let it set for a little bit, after charging it, I will load test it again just to make sure that it's okay. So if you don't hear any other issues, any other comments, or see any other notes, or hear me talk about it again, then you can assume that it's okay. I'll tell you if it's not, and I'll make a note of it in the service notes when I'm finished. Let's see. On the front of the bike, so we're going to be bouncing here a little bit. Both sides, you need wheel bearings. So I'm sure you can see that moving around. The other side is a little bit worse. So you have the same issue on both sides. Let's see. On the right rear of the bike, you also have play in this wheel bearing. It's not as bad as the ones in the front, but you're at the start of the season, and due to other issues back here, I'd recommend replacing that wheel bearing now. So we'll get to the other issues here in a minute. Back up in the front, excuse me, you have play in the upper and the lower control arms in the bushings. It's probably easiest to see that guy. And that's the same idea on the top, but the top ones aren't as bad. So you do have the same sort of play on both sides of the bike, so it doesn't matter left or right. Both sides in the front, you need lower ball joints. And that one there, I was actually expecting, I think if I hit it with a hammer, it would probably pop apart. I have seen them fall off before. And that one there, you have the same sort of idea. It's not quite as bad. Usually I find the right side is worse than the left. Usually that's because of the way the trails lean. Kind of like little roads. Both sides, lower shock mount bushings are wore. I'm sure you can see that. I hope you can. The AR moving without the shock moving. So you need those on both sides. On the front and the steering, first thing I'll tell you is that you need 4 tie rod ends. They all have a bit of play in them. on this side you need a rod. So this rod is bent. The other side it's not bent. But what I probably would recommend here that I think that's going to be a little bit more beneficial to you is replacing all 4 tie rod ends and the rods. And I would do that with a heavy duty rod and tie rod end kit. So it comes with a larger diameter tie rod and the 4 heavy duty tie rod ends to go with it. And I think that would be a little bit more economical way and probably give you a little bit more of strength that I think you need. Let's see. Over on this side. So first thing I noticed when I drove your bike around behind the building after you left it was that you have no brakes on the front. So I knew there was a brake issue here somewhere. This brake caliper is damaged. I would dare say that's the reason why everything's nice and black and has that kind of oily feel to it. Because the seals have popped, because your pads are actually wore out past the metal backer, and it's probably started to contact the piston, because I see part of that's your brake pad. It shouldn't be there. So I would say that the piston's been contacting the back side of the disc. So I'm going to hope that there doesn't feel like there's a great amount of damage to the disc itself, but I would say that we're probably looking at a new caliper on this side. So that's one thing. On this side, same sort of idea, except there's no damage to the caliper yet. But your pads are wore down to the metal backers on this side. I would replace them both sides anyway, but that disc is a little bit healthier than the one on the other side, but I think we can make the other one work for you. On the back end for brakes, your pads are not quite wore out to the metal backer. Well, maybe they are. Kind of looks like that inside one might be a little bit. So anyway, going to replace those pads. So along with the brakes, the caliper, the pads, I will flush the brake system out with new fluid at the same time, because the bike is probably well past the time where that should have been done. That should be done every 2 or 3 years. So I'll do that at the same time because I have to do that caliper work anyway. Let's see what else. There's something that I missed here along the way. I'm sorry. Oh yes, the other issue on the back. Sorry about that. So when I first checked this side, it does need a little. It does have a little bit of play in the wheel bearing, but the bigger problem is the bearing surfaces on your on your suspension arms, and you'll see that's. If you look at the axle right here on the boot, all I'm doing is pushing over on the tire, and you can see the axle getting longer and shorter. It's not supposed to do that, so that's play up here in the pivot. So you need that repaired. Let's see, a couple more little things. Left side tail light bulb is blown. The brake light part works, but the tail light doesn't. And I guess that's it. And I think it's enough. Anyway, so what I'll do is I'm going to send this a video along to you, and in another, hopefully by later tomorrow or Friday, I'll send along an estimate to you with a price for all the service items and the repairs all rolled into one, and then we can go from there. If you have any questions, please let me know, and you have a great night.